But the Muslims became the majority, and once they became the majority, they were no longer tolerant of the people who took them in and accepted them and included them in the country. They felt they were not a part of the country, they felt they were a part of the Islamic Ummah or the Islamic nation. So when they turned against their brethren Christians who lived in the same country, and Jews, but specifically the Christians, they began massacring us in large numbers because they thought we are in power now and therefore we set the rules on how things should be. And that's really what drove the country into war.
Hello, Iranian here. They keep asking the same question. Why are lefties, why are the loudest pro-Gaza voices completely silent when it comes to Iran? Well, the answer is simple, because the truth exposes the lie. Because acknowledging Iran would shatter the ideological fantasy that they built. Let's be clear, Islamic Republic of Iran is not a victim of Western imperialism. It is a theocratic authoritarian regime that survives by exporting violence, funding Islamists, and crushing its own people. And yes, it funds Hamas, it funds Hezbollah, it funds all the little proxies around the region and around the world with Iranian people's money, not the government money, not the regime money, stolen money taken from the worker who cannot afford bread in Iran right now. Families crushed by inflation, taken from women who are beaten, jailed, tortured, raped for refusing religious obedience. And this is why leftists are silent. Because Hamas fits their narrative, but Iranian people don't. Because Islamist violence against Israelis can be reframed as a resistance. But Islamist violence against Iranian exposes the truth. Right now, as you're watching this, Iran, a country of more than 92 million people, is being erased in real time. Near total blackout for more than 24 hours. No internet, no call services, no connectivity whatsoever. And yet silence. No emergency protests on Western campuses, no hashtags, no solidarity statements, no megaphones, no tears. Because Iranian suffering does not fit their agenda. Because leftist movements today are not driven by human rights, they are driven by selective outrage and ideological loyalty. They will scream about censorship unless it's done by an Islamist regime. They will condemn the state violence unless it's wrapped in religious language. They will chant free Palestine, but they will never say free Iran, because that will require admitting something unforgivable, that political Islam is not liberation, it is domination. And that is exactly what's been happening in the West, by the way. That the Islamic Republic is not anti-imperialist, it is imperial toward its own people. That Hamas is not some isolated resistance group. It is part of a broader Islamist ecosystem that is funded, trained, and sustained by the regimes like Islamic Republic in Iran. And here's the part that they do not want to hear. You cannot claim moral superiority while excusing a regime that kills and murders women for refusing hijab, executes protesters, cuts off the whole nation of 92 million people from the internet, and uses foreign proxies as a distraction from its internal collapse. You cannot pretend to care about Palestinians while ignoring Iranians being shot, tortured, and murdered by the Islamic Republic in Iran. That is not solidarity. That is ideological blindness. Iranian people are not silent. They are being silenced. And the silence from the Western left, well, that's a choice. A choice to protect an ideology, a choice to excuse Islamism, a choice to look away when millions of people are suffering. Because their suffering, Iranian people's suffering, complicates a slogan. History will remember this moment. It will remember who spoke for universal freedom and who decided that some lives matter less than preserving a narrative. Long live Iran.
What is your view on Islam?
As someone who grew up in a Muslim family, I was conditioned to be a Muslim. Later on, I went to a Sharia school. I studied Islam. I memorized huge portions of the Quran. I read the Quran on a regular basis. I studied classic Arabic to understand the language of the Quran. I spent most of my childhood and up to my mid-20s in that environment. Islam is not a religion of peace. Bottom line.
So
And this is not according to one sect. This is according to the Quran itself. And all the Islamic sects, denominations, follow a major book, and that's Quran. And Quran in itself is not peaceful. The God of the Quran, Allah, is not peaceful. He's a very violent God. He's not tolerant. He hates the Jewish people. He hates the non-Muslims. And he gives the authority to the Muslims to punish the non-Muslims if they don't obey Allah, to function as the sword of Allah on earth. And this by itself is blasphemic, is wrong, is against the way of life, is against the way of evolution, it's against religion, it's against morality, it's against diversity. And those who claim that Islam is a religion of peace, they are liars. They are all paid actors. They are all compromised by their sheikh oil money. And they don't want to piss off Islamic political regimes and Islamic money and Muslim investors. And most importantly, they want to avoid the Muslim rage. So they just keep dragging humanity into the trap that Islam is a religion of peace, while it's not. So as someone who know the Quran very well, so the people cannot be mistaken, say, okay, this is your Islam, or this is your sect, or this is your denomination. I tell them, rest, take a seat and listen. The Quran itself has a problem. Allah himself has a problem. And if we want to deal with Islamic violence, then we need to deal with the root cause of this problem, and it resides in the Quran itself.
Bukan mas, kamu dengar dulu. Itu bukan yang perangnya perang agama. Itu perang tentang rejim zolim Iran. Masa kamu ini aja tidak bisa faham? Dengar dulu. Iran punya 93 juta rakyat. Mereka bisa pilih buat sendiri yang mana bagus, mana tidak bagus. Kenapa kamu ikut campur? Kamu yang bilang dia. Kenapa kamu ikut campur? Pikir pakai otak.
Lucky me, I was born after the revolution, so I was born into the Islamic country. And to top that, I was also born in a family where my father was a sheikh, a step higher than imam, and my mother was a Quran teacher. So I pretty much was raised a strictly Muslim. At home, at a school, on the streets, everywhere. When I was getting ready to go to school, at age 7, when they handed me my uniform, it had a hijab, a white piece of headscarf. And I asked my mother that I was under the impression that I don't have to wear the hijab until I'm 9 years old. And she said, well, yes, that is true, and it is not mandatory for you to wear it yet. But you need to prepare yourself, you need to master it, and you need to learn how to wear it. So when you get to age 9, you're all good. And you don't have to wear it on the street, but you do have to wear it at school. Okay, put it on. First day of school, my father took me to school. On the way there, the first thing I noticed was that boys are going to school, but they're wearing whatever they want. So I asked my father, Dad, why am I wearing a hijab and they're not? My answer was a punch to the face. I asked the second question, why are you punching me? He looked me in the eye and said, you'll never question Allah. Okay. Fast forward to when I was 9 years old. I got an invitation to take to my parents. I did it from school. I did it and they said, yay, there's an event coming up and we gotta go. And it's a ceremony. It's called requirement day. And we need to get ready for it. Okay, what do we do? Well, first you need to master your prayer. And you need to master it, you need to learn it in Arabic. A question came to my mind at that age, and it was the fact that, wait a minute, Allah is supposedly my creator, but he expects me to be bilingual, but he's not himself. So I have to learn Arabic so he would understand what I'm saying. That was the first red flag for me. Mastered the prayer. Then I had to master the prayer, to call to prayer. I did that. And then they showed me my gorgeous wardrobe. They handed me a burqa. Are you all familiar with burqa? It was color white because it was a day of celebration. They put me in a burqa, put a black headband on top with a giant red rose or some sort of flower, and we went. I walked in, and the room is filled with 9-year-old girls. Some of them I knew because they were my classmates or from my school, some of them I didn't know. And for the record, same day, every single city in the country had the same ceremony going on for their 9-year-old girls. The imam came on the stage and started citing Quran and talking about Muhammad and Islam and Sharia and all that good stuff. And he went on saying, starting today, all of you 9-year-old girls in this room under Sharia are officially an adult woman. You will be responsible for your actions. You will pay consequences. You will follow Muhammad. You will die or kill in the name of Allah. Oh, and if your male guardian decides it's time for you to get married, you will do so. I have never tried to tell anyone how I felt because so many emotions were running through me. But the strongest one was anger. I was pissed off. I'm like, wait. So until now, I'm just a kid. The only thing I have to worry about is my grades, my school, classmates, friends, dolls, and like that, I'm an adult woman. I could possibly be a wife. I could possibly become a mother. After that, they told us to get up and repeat after the imam. He started saying the shahada, which is basically the testimony you give to officially become a Muslim. And technically, I've been called an ex-Muslim, but in reality, I'm not an ex-Muslim because I was too pissed off to repeat after the imam. So I didn't say the shahada. So as an adult, I didn't become a Muslim. But in Islamic Republic of Iran, when you're born, they stamp you a Muslim and you don't have a choice. After that, considering the fact that I was an adult woman and I was responsible for my own actions, I managed to get myself in a lot of trouble. Until I reached the age of 14, I was arrested over 12 times. And every time I was arrested, I was put in prison or detention center. And just a note, because I was an adult, there is no juvie system in Iran. You go to prison where real-life adult criminal women are being held. So I shared my cell with them. I managed to get lashed over 100 times. And I was raped, I don't know how many times, lost count. And just so you know the crimes I committed, I was arrested once because I was wearing nail polish. Now, why is that a crime? If you're wearing a nail polish, that is a proof that you're not doing your prayers. Because as a Muslim, when you do your prayer, you have to do the prayer wash up. And you can't have anything blocking water from touching the areas that you're washing. Hands are one of those areas. If you have nail polish, the water isn't touching your nail. Therefore, you're not doing your prayer. I was arrested because accidentally, completely accidentally, my hair was showing from back of my hijab. I was arrested because I went to a party when boys and girls were in the same room. And everybody at that party, including myself, we earned ourselves 35 lashes. Except the host, he actually earned himself 75 because he was a promoter. I also got arrested once because with a good friend of mine, classmate, we were walking home and we decided to whisper the song we liked. We got carried away and we started singing loud. We got arrested. and they took us to detention center. We were both 11. They had to hold us at detention center until morning where they could send us to the court to see what's going to happen. And somehow, while we were there, they find out my classmate, my friend, is not a Muslim, but rather she was a Baha'i. That was the night that I was forced to watch my 11-year-old friend be sodomized all night for being a filthy non-Muslim. I don't know what happened to her. She did not come back to school. And we were sent to two different courts, so I hope she stayed alive. Another time I decided to sit in the front seat of a cab because the back seat was full. As the back passengers were getting off, I didn't bother to move and go sit in the back. We got pulled over by morality police. Here's the thing, and by the way, whatever I tell you, please do not take my word for it. Every information I'm giving you is available online thanks to technology today. As soon as you're pulled over by morality police in Islamic Republic of Iran, and it's a couple, a man and a woman, the first question is, what's your relationship? I said, nothing, I'm a passenger. The driver said, no, we have a relationship. They took us in. In the morning when I went to court, I kept on telling the truth. I was just a passenger. And the judge asked me if I can bring someone else to testify to my testimony. And I said, well, no, we were alone in the car. He said, well, technically, because under Sharia, you are half of a man, your testimony counts as half of his testimony, so I'm going to have to take his word for it. You're sentenced to 75 lashes. I'm not going to bore you with more of my stories and criminal acts, but you get the picture. When I was close to my 14, my father, being the sheikh, devoted Muslim, just had it. I was bringing way too much attention to our family and I was too much of a troublemaker. So he figured it's time for me to be somebody else's problem. One day he told me I am going to marry that guy. I'm not kidding, literally. He looked me and pointed at the guy. That guy. I tried to cry my way out of it, beg my way out of it, even fight my way out of it. It did not work. So I became, back then I thought I became his wife. Later on I learned it's called the child bride. The man who bought me, yes, he purchased me. He paid $50 American dollars and opium for about a month of usage for my father. He kind of sort of had a habit of looking at me as a punching bag. So he had me for over a year, and every day if he wasn't beating me, he was raping me. If he wasn't raping me, he was beating me, or sometimes he was doing both. I went to my father and I asked him to get me a divorce because my father, being my legal guardian, had the power to do it. He looked at me and said, well, I know you. You're not the type to bite your tongue and obey your husband. So he has no choice but to beat you. He sent me back. A little later, one day when he was done beating me, he left and I figured, wait, if I can somehow get myself to court and go into a courtroom and talk to a judge, looking the way I look right now, he might just feel sorry for me and do something. So let's do it. I walked into a courtroom with a dislocated shoulder, bloody lip, and a bruised face, eye area. And I went to the judge and said, Your Honor, you have got to save me because this man will kill me sooner or later. He was looking down at his papers. Very calmly he looked up with a smile and said, well, young lady, maybe if you start obeying your husband, he wouldn't have to beat you. Now go home and make him happy. That was the moment when I realized I'm a hopeless, helpless teenager. that no one in my country, in my home, it was called home for me, no one cares and nobody's going to save me. One way or another, he's going to find a way to kill me. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to even know I existed or what happened to me. Thankfully, I was blessed to have a grandmother who was against everything that was going on, not just with me, the entire country. She was raised the time of King before the revolution, so she had a very clear vision that there's a better life. There is a time and there are people who respect women, and they respect a 9-year-old girl as a little girl and not a woman. So she was against it all. She managed to hire a smuggler to get me out of the country, and I was smuggled to Turkey, where I became a legal immigrant under United Nations, went through proper channels, waited close to 3 years until I was legally approved and accepted to America. I came in as a refugee, and I came in to have a better life. I came in to enjoy freedom that America offers. And the proudest moment of all of my speeches is when I can inform you, starting 2010, I am officially a very proud American citizen. Aside the fact that I love saying this because it is really, it makes me feel so good. I think it was the best achievement of my life ever. Aside the fact that it makes me feel good and it makes me feel proud, I also mention this because I want to make sure that you all know I don't do what I do for paperwork. I don't do what I do to get my citizenship. No, I do what I do because of what I went through. Now, I was a lucky one. I was blessed.